We're back again.
Happy Friday.
All right, Mrs. Pavao is going to be reading chapters 14 and 15 from Freak the Mighty. And after you're done listening, there's going to be some questions for you to answer in Google Classroom. Here we go.
Chapter 14, Cross My Heart and Hope to Die. Graham lets me stay home the next day because Freak is getting out of the hospital, and I'm right up on the front step when the fair Gwen pulls up in her car. Freak is riding in the back. You can barely see him in the window, and he's got this big grin that makes me feel like everything's going to be okay, the way everybody keeps saying. I go, "Is it okay if I carry him inside?" And the fair Gwen says, "Of course." "He has to rest," she says. "He stays in the house until I say different. Is that understood?" In his room, Freak is right away ordering me around, bring me this, go do that, and you'd never guess he'd been sick. "A minor incident," he says, easily corrected by biogenic intervention. "You mean that robot stuff?" Freak goes, "Shh! The fair Gwen must not know of the plan. The very idea strikes fear into her heart." "Well, it is pretty scary," I say, "getting an operation to give you a whole new body." "I'm not scared," Freak says. "I'm looking forward to it." "So when does it happen?" Freak gets his faraway look and he says, "I'm not sure. Dr. Spivak, she's my doctor. She says maybe a year or two." "But how come you need a new body?" I ask. "How come you can't just stay like you are?" Freak shakes his head, like he knows I'm not smart enough to understand. "No one stays like they are," he says. "Everybody is always changing. My problem is I'm growing on the inside, but not on the outside." He doesn't want to talk about it anymore, which is fine with me. In another couple of days, everything's back to normal. We're going back to school like always, and everything is going real good until Christmas vacation when, if you'll excuse the expression, all hell breaks loose. I'm in the down under trying to get the stupid wrapping paper to cover the stupid presents I got for Grim and Graham when the shouting starts upstairs. Understand, Grim never yells at Graham. Not that I can ever remember. And Graham, well, the worst thing she ever does is cry when she's mad. But somebody sure is yelling up there, and so I sneak up the stairs, and I don't have to put my ear to the door. That's how loud it is. "Over my dead body, you will!" That's Graham yelling, and her voice is big and full of tears. Grim's voice isn't nearly as loud, and I open the door a crack to hear whatever it is that made Graham so mad at him. "I have an obligation," he's saying. "A man has to protect his family." "Not with a gun!" Graham yells. "Not in this house. I won't have it. Oh, I can't stand it. How could they do this to us? How could they?" "He fooled him," Grim is saying. "Just like he fooled Annie. Just like he fooled us once upon a time. Never again, though. That man tries to set foot in this house. I aim to shoot him." "No guns," Graham says. "You don't know about guns." "Of course I do. I was in the army, wasn't I?" "That was 30 years ago. I know what will happen. Don't you think I've dreamt about it for the last 8 years? He'll come in here and he'll take the gun away from you and then he'll do the shooting." By now I figured out they're talking about, and I guess you have too, none other than him, Killer Kane, my father. "Maybe they won't let him out," Graham is saying. "If they do, they'll give us protection." "Sure they will," Grim said, "just like they protected our Annie." Next thing, Grim is crying, and you can tell Grim is trying to make her feel better, going, There, my dear. I know. There." A while later, I hear the cellar stairs creaking. It's Grim, and he knocks on my door. "Come on in." Grim comes inside, and for once, he doesn't tell me what a rat hole I'm living in or how it smells like a locker room because I forgot to put my socks in the hamper. He sits on the edge of the bed and folds his hands together. I never think about how old he is because he never acts old, but tonight he's all white and bent and his skin seems saggy. He's about 1,000 years old and says, "I guess you heard the ruckus? Your grandma's so upset. Bless her heart. Can't abide the idea of violence. Can't say I blame her." "Did he escape?" I ask. "Is that what happened?" Grim shakes his head. "He's up for parole." "That's dumb. That's so dumb." Grim goes, "You hit the nail on the head, son. What I did do, just so you know, I went into court and made it so he won't be allowed within a mile of this house. If he does try to come here, they'll send him back to prison. The judge promised me that much." I say, "Maybe you should get a gun." Grim doesn't say anything for a while and then goes, "Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Can't tell your grandma about it, though, and it breaks my heart to lie to her. That's one thing we've never done." I won't tell. Grim is quiet again, and then he stands up from my bed, and in this real old, tired voice, he says, "Everything's going to be okay, Max. I'll make sure of it. But for the next few days, I want you to stay in this house. Promise me you'll do that?" Cross my heart, I say. Cross my heart and hope to die.
Chapter 15.
What came down the chimney? Christmas Eve is real quiet. Like Freak says, you could hear a mouse fart. Which, even if it is a stupid joke, makes Graham smile and shake his head. Freak and the fair Gwen have supper with us, and we're all trying to pretend like everything's normal, and nobody says a word about Killer Kane getting out of prison. The fair Gwen is wearing this dark red silky blouse and a long black skirt that almost touches the floor, and her waist is so small she looks like one of those Christmas ornaments, the kind that makes a tingle bell sound when the branches move.
Bless you. We are just kidding. 1,000,000%.
I'm totally fine. I have a tickle in my throat from reading to you. Let's see. Freak is all dressed up too. He's wearing this tweed jacket and it has patches on the elbow. And Grim says all he needs is a pipe and he'll look like quite the professor. No tobacco, Freak says. Nicotine is a toxic waste of time. Just the pipe, Grim insists. You don't have to smoke it. Don't get him started on bad habits, Graham says. Maxwell, pass the mint sauce. Mint sauce is one of Graham's specialties, and you'll be amazed how it improves everything, which is why I've been keeping it close by. Anyhow, the food is the best, and you can't beat Graham for Christmas or Thanksgiving or birthdays, and we all eat until we're fit to bust, except the fair Gwen makes sure Freak doesn't eat too fast. You'd think I was starving him, the fair Gwen says. Please, sir, more gruel, he says, holding up his plate, making a funny face where his tongue sticks out sideways, and Graham laughs so hard she has a coughing fit, which makes us all stop. After supper, we all sit around like you do, admiring the tree and talking about how lucky we are not to be homeless, and Grim starts telling these old stories about when he was a kid and they got lumps of coal in their stocking. If we were lucky, we got an apple core, he says, or a few orange rinds. Now, Arthur, Graham says, you never got a lump of coal in your life. You're right. We never even got a lump of coal. Can you imagine? My father couldn't afford coal, so he'd write the word coal on a piece of paper and stuff it in our stockings. And we pretend it was a lump of coal. That's how poor we were. The fair Gwen is laughing to herself and shaking her head. Graham says, how can you tell such lies on Christmas Eve? I'm telling tales, my dear, not lies. Lies are mean things, and tales are meant to entertain. And so we all sit there acting polite and listening to Grim make up stuff no one would ever in a million years believe. And then all of us have a cup of hot chocolate and a piece of Russell Stover candy right out of the box. And then it's time to pass around a few of the presents. Graham has this rule that you can open one on Christmas Eve and you save the rest for morning, which can be tough, deciding what to open first. Grim always starts it off because, like he says, he's really a kid at heart and can't stand to wait. From Graham, he gets this woolly sweater that has buttons up the front, and he acts surprised, even though he's got about 100 of them just like it already. Then Graham opens her present for me, which is a bracelet made of shells from beaches around the world. And right away, she puts it on and says it's just what she wanted, which is so like Graham. If you gave her an old beer can, she'd act pleased and say it was just what she wanted. Then Freak opens his present for me, and even before he gets the paper all the way off, he gives me a thumbs up and says, cool. It's a gizmo that looks like a jackknife, but really it's a whole bunch of little screwdrivers and wrenches and even a little magnifying glass. I'm pretty sure Freak can invent stuff with it if he feels like it. Graham gives the fair Gwen the scarf that just happens to match her blouse, and everybody goes, ooh and ah. And then I finally decide which present to open. Right away, you know it was something Freak did, because the box isn't square. It's pointed at the top like a pyramid, and instead of regular wrapping paper, he's got Sunday comics taped all over it. It's driving me nuts trying to figure out what could fit inside a pyramid-shaped box. Freak seems like he's just as excited as me, even though he already knows what's inside. Take off all the paper first, he said. There's a special way to open it. Real careful, I peel off all the paper, and the thing is, it's not a pyramid-shaped box he bought. He made it. You can see where he cut out the pieces of cardboard and taped them all together, and written on the sides of the pyramid are these little signs and arrows. Follow the arrows, he says. The arrows point all over the place, and I have to keep turning the pyramid around until finally I get to a sign that says, "Press here and be amazed." "Go on," Freak says. "It's not an explosive device, silly. It won't blow up in your face." I press the spot on the pyramid, and all of a sudden, all 4 sides fall down at the same time, and I'm looking inside the pyramid, and just like that, Freak promised. I'm amazed. "The young man is a genius," Grim is saying. I don't use that word lightly. Grim is right about that, because Freak has this whole thing rigged with these elastic bands and paper clips, which is what made the sides unfold all at the same time. And inside this little platform, and inside is this little platform, and on the platform is a book. Not a normal book, like one you buy in the store, but a book he made himself, and you can tell that right away. It looks so special, I'm afraid to pick it up. I might ruin it. What I did was take all of my favorite words, Freak says, and put them in alphabetical order. Like a dictionary? Exactly, Freak says, but different, because this is my dictionary. Go on and look inside. I open up the book the way he asked, and all the pages smell like ballpoint pen. It starts with A, just like a regular dictionary, but as Freak said, it's different. A, aardvark, a silly-looking creature that eats ants. Arg, what an aardvark says when it eats ants. Abacus, a finger-powered computer. Abscissa, the horizontal truth. You don't have to read them all tonight, Freak says. Save some for tomorrow. I gotta tell you though, when you're gonna flip when you see what I did with the Z's. This is the best, getting Freak's dictionary. Everything else is just extra. I figure it will take forever to fall asleep because my head is full of stuff. Graham and his written down lump of coal, the pyramid and the special book inside, and how fat, wet snowflakes were falling when Fair Gwen towed Freak home in his American Flyer wagon, and the way he was pretending to boss her by saying, "On Donner, on Dasher, on Guinevere," and she's telling him to shut up or she'll leave him outside until he turns into a snowman. Which must be why I'm dreaming about a little snowman who looks like Freak. The snowman keeps saying, "Cool, cool," and when I wake up, I can feel the cold coming into my bedroom, which is weird because it's always warm in the down under with the furnace right next door. I think I hear the wind right here in the room, except it's not wind. Someone's breathing. Someone who rises up darker than night, as big as the room, and puts a giant hand on my face and presses down. "Don't say a word, boy," he whispers. "Not a sound." I try to move, try to shrink myself back into the bed, but the hand follows me down. The hand is so hard and strong, I can't move, and it feels like my heart has stopped beating. It's waiting to see what will happen next. "I came back," he says, "like I promised."
What? That's just how the chapter ends?
That's just how the chapter ends. So, you're going to have 2 questions, one for each chapter.
So the first one is, why were Grim and Graham arguing in chapter 14? The second question is, what did Freak give to Max? How does Max feel about it? Both of these questions will be in a Google Doc on the classwork tab for you to answer.
Until then, we'll do chapter 16 next week.
Happy Friday and have a great weekend.